We are standing at the edge of a cliff that most Americans do not even know exists. For the last 80 years, we have lived in a financial fairy tale. We believed that debt did not matter. We believed that we could print prosperity out of thin air. And we believed that the United States dollar would reign supreme forever. But history has a cruel way of waking dreamers up. In May 2025, the alarm clock finally rang. When Moody's downgraded the United States credit rating, they did not just lower a score on a spreadsheet, they signaled the mathematical end of the American empire. I know that sounds extreme. I know you want to believe that this is just another cycle, that the economy will bounce back like it always does. But I am here to tell you that this time is different. This is not a recession. This is a reset. And to understand why your life is about to change forever, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to understand what we are actually losing. In 1944, as World War II was ending, the global powers met at Bretton Woods. They agreed to a system where the US dollar was backed by gold, and every other currency was backed by the dollar. It was a contract of trust. We promised the world that the dollar was as good as gold. But in 1971, we broke that promise. President Nixon closed the gold window. He told the world that we would no longer redeem their dollars for gold. At that moment, the dollar became a fiat currency. It became paper backed by nothing but faith. Faith in our military, faith in our economy, and faith in our ability to pay our debts. For 50 years, that faith held strong. The world had no other choice. We were the only game in town. We created the petrodollar system, forcing Saudi Arabia to sell oil only in dollars. This created an artificial demand for our currency. Every country needed dollars to buy energy, so they bought our debt. They financed our military. They subsidized our cheap imports at Walmart. They allowed us to live far beyond our means for decades. But the credit downgrade in 2025 shattered that faith. It was the final straw in a long line of abuses. The world is tired of financing our reckless spending. They are tired of holding US treasuries that lose value every year due to inflation. And now, for the first time in history, they have an alternative. This is the geopolitical checkmate that nobody in Washington wants to talk about. It is called the BRICS Alliance. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now Saudi Arabia and Iran. These nations control the majority of the world's population. They control the majority of the world's commodities, oil, gas, wheat, rare earth minerals. And they are actively building a new financial system that bypasses the dollar completely. They are trading oil in yuan. They are settling accounts in gold. They are building their own version of SWIFT. Why does this matter to you? Why should a retiree in Florida care about a trade deal between China and Brazil? Here is the terrifying reality. When the world stops needing dollars to trade, all those trillions of dollars currently held overseas will come home. Right now, about 60% of all physical US currency is held outside the United States. Trillions more are held in digital ledgers by foreign central banks. As these countries de-dollarize, they sell those dollars. They dump them, and those dollars have to go somewhere. They flood back into the domestic US economy. This creates a tsunami of inflation that the Federal Reserve cannot stop. You think inflation was bad in 2022? That was a breeze compared to what happens when the global reserve status ends. We are talking about a structural repricing of every single item you buy. Gasoline going to $10 a gallon and staying there. A loaf of bread costing $12. Your electricity bill tripling. This is the dollar endgame. It is the moment when the excess supply of money meets the declining demand for that money. And the credit downgrade was the trigger. It gave every central bank governor in the world the excuse they needed to hit the sell button. They can simply say they are managing risk, but in reality, they are escaping a burning building. Let's look at the numbers inside the United States, because the internal rot is just as dangerous as the external threat. The US national debt is now over $38 trillion. That number is so big it is meaningless to the human brain. So let's break it down. The interest on that debt is now over $1.1 trillion a year. That is your tax money, and it is gone. It is not paving your streets. It is not teaching your children. It is simply being paid to bondholders to keep the lights on for one more day. But here is the catch. We don't have the money. The US government runs a deficit of $2 trillion a year. So we have to borrow the money to pay the interest on the money we already borrowed. This is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. Any private company that operated like this would be shut down and the CEO would go to prison. But the government has a printing press, so they print the difference. This is why your grocery bill is up 40% in 3 years. It is not just corporate greed, it is the debasement of the currency unit itself. Every new dollar they print steals a fraction of the value from the dollars in your savings account. It is a hidden tax. It is a tax on prudent people. It is a tax on savers. It is a tax on retirees living on fixed incomes. And with the credit downgrade, the cost of borrowing has gone up. Interest rates have to stay higher to attract investors to buy our risky debt. This crushes the real economy. It crushes the housing market. It crushes small businesses. We are entering a period of stagflation, stagnant growth combined with high inflation. It is the worst possible economic environment for the middle class, and the government is trapped. If they lower interest rates to help the economy, inflation explodes. If they raise interest rates to fight inflation, the interest on the debt becomes unpayable and the government goes bankrupt. There is no way out. This is what the rating agencies saw. This is why they downgraded us. They looked at the math, and the math says the United States is insolvent. So, what happens next? What does the collapse of an empire actually look like in the 21st century? It doesn't necessarily mean Mad Max in the streets. It looks more like a slow, grinding decline in the standard of living. It looks like the destruction of the middle class. We will see a system of financial repression. This is a fancy term for how the government forces you to pay for their mistakes. They will keep interest rates below the rate of inflation. This guarantees that if you keep your money in the bank, you lose purchasing power every year. They will force pension funds to buy government debt. They might even implement capital controls to stop you from moving your money out of the country or into Bitcoin and gold. We are already seeing the beginning of this with the crackdown on crypto and the push for CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. This is the ultimate tool of control. If the dollar collapses, they will likely introduce a digital dollar, FedNow, a programmable currency that they can track, trace, and control. They will sell it to you as a solution to the crisis. They will say it is for safety. They will say it is for convenience. But it is a trap. It is a way to lock you into a failing system and prevent you from escaping. The credit downgrade is the signal that the old system is dying. The CBDC is the signal that the new system of control is being born, and you are caught in the middle. So, the question is, what can you do? How do you survive the end of the dollar era? The first step is to accept reality. Stop listening to the politicians who say everything is fine. Stop listening to the financial advisors who tell you to just buy a diversified portfolio of stocks and bonds and hold for the long run. That strategy worked for 40 years because interest rates were falling and the dollar was strong. That era is over. In a world of debt collapse and currency debasement, you need to own hard assets. Assets that cannot be printed. Assets that have no counterparty risk. Gold is the king of this category. For 5,000 years, gold has been money. It survives empires. It survives wars. It survives hyperinflation. Central banks know this. That is why they are buying gold at record levels while telling you it is a barbarous relic. Do what they do, not what they say. Silver is also vital. It is the poor man's gold, but it has industrial utility that ensures demand. Then there is land, productive farmland, real estate in areas with strong local economies and water independence, energy, oil and gas stocks, or direct ownership of mineral rights. These are things that people need regardless of what the currency is worth. And we have to talk about Bitcoin. I know it is controversial, but Bitcoin is the only asset in the world that has a fixed supply and cannot be confiscated or debased by a government if you hold your own keys. It is a lifeboat for the digital age. Even a small allocation, 1 to 5%, could be the difference between ruin and survival if the dollar hyperinflates. But beyond financial assets, you need to invest in yourself. In a collapsing economy, skills are the ultimate currency. Can you fix things? Can you grow food? Can you provide a service that people desperately need? These skills are inflation-proof. The paper pushers, the middle managers, the bureaucrats, their jobs are at risk. The people who can build, repair, and create will always have value. We are witnessing a historical pivot. The American century is ending. The multipolar world is beginning. This transition will be chaotic. There will be market crashes. There will be banking failures. There will be social unrest. The credit downgrade was just the first domino. It tipped over the illusion of stability. Now the other dominoes are falling. The banking system's stability, the pension funds, the value of the currency itself. You cannot stop this process. It is bigger than any president. It is bigger than the Federal Reserve. It is the cycle of history. But you can position yourself to not be crushed by it. You can build a personal economy that is resilient. Get out of debt. Variable rate debt is a shackle that will drag you down. Pay it off. Build an emergency fund, but keep it in short-term treasuries or gold, not just cash that is melting away. Secure your supply chain. Have extra food. Have a way to purify water. This isn't doomsday prepping. This is common sense insurance against a fragile supply chain that relies on a stable dollar. Most people will sleepwalk into this crisis. They will wake up one day and realize their savings are worthless. They will blame the politicians. They will blame the banks. But they will be destitute. You have the advantage of foresight. You have the information. The downgrade was the warning shot. Do not ignore it. The window of opportunity to convert your paper dollars into real assets is closing. When the panic starts, there will be no gold available to buy. There will be no land for sale at reasonable prices. The time to act is now. This is the dollar endgame. It is scary, it is uncertain, but for those who are prepared, it is also the greatest wealth transfer in history. Wealth is never destroyed, it is merely transferred. It is transferring from the unprepared to the prepared, from the paper holders to the asset holders, from the trusting to the skeptical. Which side of the transfer will you be on? This is not a drill. The collapse has started. It is slow at first, then all at once. We are in the slow phase right now. Use this time wisely. Build your ark. Protect your family. And do not let the illusion of normalcy fool you. The storm is here. I will continue to track these indicators. I will continue to expose the lies coming out of Washington and Wall Street. If you want to survive the dollar endgame, you need to stay plugged in. Subscribe to this channel. Share this video with the people you care about. Wake them up, because we are stronger together, and we will get through this, but only if we face the truth head-on. Thank you for watching. And remember, in a world of lies, the truth is the only currency that matters. I will see you in the next update.